Beliefs, Science, and Progressivism. I am MD. Yusuf Khan, 49, resident of Boundary Road, retired from government service. A few days ago, I saw 10-minute school teaching sex in our country. I also saw an interview of a couple of the same sex in the video of Bonnie Amin, an expatriate from Australia. So, since I have some comments on this, I released this video. How many years ago this time is not mentioned is how ancient the history of human civilization is. However, the beginning of human civilization since the advent of the prophet Adam, peace be upon him. The agrarian revolution began in 8000 BC and the urban civilization began. Civilizations evolved differently in other parts of the world, especially in the ancient Near East, ancient China, and ancient India, such as the four unique discoveries of China, the golden time of Islam, and Indian mathematics. However, after the 17th century, civilizations began to globalize as a result of extensive trade and colonization. Over the last 500 years, the rate of population growth, science, business, trade, weapons of mass destruction, environmental damage, etc., has increased at an unprecedented rate, which has opened the door to huge possibilities and dangers for the people of today's world. From the time of human civilization onwards, the process of procreation began with the marriage of men and women through religious and national laws. The mother of the girl has been following the solution of the feminine problem of the girls after attaining youth. Shamim Muntaji is a progressive man, the bearer of modern thought. His name could be nominated for the Nobel Prize. However, one of the conditions for receiving the Nobel Prize is to test whether the discovery will bring human welfare. This man grew up in the teachings of Western civilization. So he wants to spread some knowledge from civilization in Bangladesh. Since the issue is social, then we have to see which religion most of the people in Bangladesh believe in. Since most of the people in this country are followers of Islam, the Muslim people of this country will not accept this, because the practice is forbidden in Islam. Several young people have already protested against him. Prominent Islamic scholar Sheikh Abdullah has advised the people of the country to be careful about it. They have explained the matter according to Islam. According to Hinduism, this practice does not exist. I am now 61 years old. I have a number of close Hindu friends who come and go at home like my relatives. People of Hindu religion are also conservative like us. They will not allow their children to follow the advice of Shamim Muntasir. Now it remains to be seen whether science supports the knowledge of this progressive Shamim Muntasir, and what the scientists of the country from which he learned it have to say. Since I am a well-practicing Muslim, I believe in the Muslim creed. Now let's see what Aqidah means. Aqidah is an Islamic term meaning belief in some basic principle. So the only source of Islamic belief is the believer in Revelation, Kitab, Quran, and Sunnah, Hadith. Believing in those 6 pillars. 1. To believe in God without seeing. 2. Believe in angels. 3. Belief in the books sent down by Allah, including the Quran. 4. Believing in all the prophets and messengers sent by Allah. 5. Believing in the hereafter. 6. Belief in destiny. I believe that God, the Creator and Master of the universe, is the Lord of the universe. I believe in angels. I believe in all the prophets and messengers. So, it is not possible for me to support the teachings of the progressive Shamim Muntasir. The social system of the country where he lives is different from ours. In that country, even if everyone is naked on the streets, the police will not say anything. Even if the head of government is insulted all day, the police will not catch him. They consider it the freedom of the individual. Now we will know the definition of some basic things from science that he wants to teach the boys and girls of our country. Definition of some things according to science. Reproduction. Reproduction is the process of creating offspring of an organism. That is, the process by which an organism produces its offspring is called reproduction. Most high-class plants and all high-class animals produce offspring through sexual reproduction. Anus, from Latin anus meaning ring, circle, an open part of the mouth at the opposite end of an animal's digestive tract. Its function is to regulate fecal excretion, the semi-solid waste remaining after digestion of food, depending on the type of animal, things that the animal cannot digest, for example cellulose or lignin, which will be toxic if left in the digestive tract, and other problems, including an increase in the number of intestinal bacteria, will be created. In that case, the anus is part of the digestive system. Its face is thin from the vagina of women and there is no discharge from it during sexual intercourse. Vaginal definition. When people talk about the vagina, they usually think of the outer part of the female genitalia. There are actually 4 parts to it. Labia. Vaginal mouth. Clitoris. Urinary tract. The vagina is a muscular passage made up of nerve and mucous membranes. It connects the uterus to the outside of the body. It is located between the urethra and the anus. Menstrual blood comes out of the body with open mouth. It is also used for childbirth and sexual intercourse, which helps in menstruation, intercourse, and childbirth. Vaginal wall. The vaginal wall is made up of muscles wrapped in a mucous membrane, like facial tissue. The walls have layers of tissue with many elastic fibers. Plate of extra tissue on the surface of the wall that helps to expand the vagina during delivery. Its walls are thick, juice is released during intercourse, it does not cause any harm during normal sexual intercourse. Tissue in the vaginal wall undergoes hormone-related changes during the menstrual cycle. Cells in the outer layer of tissue store glycogen. During ovulation, this layer falls off. Glycogen is broken down by bacteria and helps maintain the pH level to protect the vagina from potentially harmful bacteria and fungi. There is no way to control the pH in the anal canal. Male reproductive organs. The organs of the male reproductive system are intended to perform the following functions. Produces, maintains, and transports sperm, male reproductive cells, and protective fluid, semen. Sperm are secreted into the female reproductive tract during mating, and produces and secretes male sex hormones responsible for maintaining the male reproductive system. Homosexuality has negative effects on health. Homosexuality has many negative effects on health. The public, the government, and the judiciary in the Western world are being persuaded that homosexuality is a natural variant that equates interaction and results with heterosexual sex. However, this position goes against science. André van Mol, MD. July 27, 2011. Provides informative and scientific explanations about the health effects of homosexual behavior. By any repetitive measure, the percentage of the population identified as gay, bisexual, or transgender, GLBT, is low. The United States Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, estimates that about 2% of the male population has sex with men, MSM, or 4% of the U.S. male population. One conducted by the National Opinion Research Center at the University of Chicago, since the late 1980s, a survey on homosexuality estimates that approximately 2% of the U.S. population identifies as gay, lesbian, or bisexual. Between 18 and 44 years old, 3.5% identified as bisexual and 1.4% as gay, lesbian. Among men of the same age, 1.7% claimed homosexuality and 1.1% were identified as bisexual. The question of the ultimate origin of sexual orientation has not yet been precisely answered, but very little evidence has been found that anyone is instinctively oriented towards alternative sex. A 1993 major scientific review by Bain and Persons in the Archives of General Psychiatry reviewed the study and found no evidence that sexual orientation was genetically or biologically determined. Health impact information. Lgbt, this acronym has been used as a noun for the former gay community since the 1990s. Overall, LGBT refers to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, gender, bisexual, transsexual and transgender. Infectious diseases, HIV/AIDS, and symptoms of depression. A 1997 Canadian study published in the International Journal of Epidemiology noted that in urban homosexual areas, the life expectancy of gay men was lower than in Canada in the 1870s. The researchers concluded that in a major Canadian centre, homosexual and bisexual men lived to be 20 years younger, and 8 to 20 years younger than all other men. Decreased life expectancy. Dr. J. Nova records that homosexuals lose 25 to 30 years of their lives, citing gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis, herpes, HIV/AIDS, other sexually transmitted infections, intestinal infections and diseases, cancer, alcoholism, suicide and countless other causes. Multiple psychiatric diagnosis, sexually transmitted infections/diseases, STIs or STDs. Data presented at the 2010 National STD Prevention Conference of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention show that the rate of new HIV diagnosis, MSM, among men who have sex with men is 44 times higher than other men and 40 times higher than among women. The rate of primary and secondary syphilis in MSM is 46 times higher than in other men and 71 times higher in women. In addition, a study discussed at the 2000 International AIDS Conference noted that 16% of HIV-positive homosexual men in a nationwide sample test in the United States. One has admitted at least one incident of unprotected intercourse with an unknown partner. In addition, more research in the United States has shown that LGBT members have more complex disease symptoms. Cancer. The Cancer Facts for Gay and Bisexual Men webpage of the American Cancer Society mentions that gay men are at risk for lung, testicular, colon and anal cancers. The thing lesbians should talk to their healthcare provider on the Gay and Lesbian Medical Association, GLMA, website, which states, lesbians have the highest risk of breast cancer among any woman in the world. And lesbians are at higher risk for many gynecological cancers. GLMA's webpage 10 things gay men should discuss with their healthcare provider. Determining the increased rate of rectal cancer in gay men. Mental health. The Netherlands Mental Health Survey and Incident Study, Nemesis, emphasizes that homosexual sexual behavior increases the risk of mental illness in people. Mood disorders, anxiety, multiple mental illnesses are more common among them. A 1999 New Zealand study found that gay and bisexual youth had an increased risk of multiple disorders compared to suicidal behaviors and depression, general anxiety disorder, behavioral disorders, tobacco dependence, and heterosexual subsamples. A prevalence rate of 2% for homosexuality/bisexuality has also been reported. If a homosexual encounter is counted after the age of 16, the rate is 2.8%. Domestic violence. Domestic violence is more common in homosexual relationships. In 2004, with a US $50,000 grant from the Blue Shield of the California Foundation, the Gay and Lesbian Medical Association launched the LGBT Relationship Violence Project to train medical professionals about the high rates of domestic violence in those communities. The California Foundation's Blue Shield acknowledges that little attention has been paid to domestic violence in the context of LGBT. Said Marian Bowlin, manager of the Blue Shield of the California Foundation's anti-violence program. A Boston program for victims of gay beatings in 1993 noted that half of the calls they received were considered domestic violence. Homosexual domestic violence is called the second toilet and is a taboo subject for conversation. From the above discussion we can see that scientifically acknowledging that the rates of HIV/AIDS, substance abuse, alcohol abuse, tobacco use, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, suicide, obesity, hepatitis have increased with homosexual carriers. Different types, numerous sexually transmitted infections, various cancers, and domestic violence, significantly reduced life expectancy, etc. Those who challenge the rationality and equality of GLBT members engage in presumably rational debates and are being propagandized for labeling them fanatics, haters, and homophobes. But medical science has firmly established the truth. Perverted sex justice, Articles on Sex Offenses Law, Psychology, and Public Policy by Charles Patrick Ewing. Keywords of Charles Patrick Ewing. Over the past quarter century, Congress, state legislatures, and courts have drastically changed U.S. laws to deal with sex offenders in an effort to reduce the incidence of sex offenders. Most convicted sex offenders now need to register with the authorities. The information about them is available to the public. Child pornography has become a very serious crime, often punishable by imprisonment. Child molesters, rapists, robbers, and even murderers are on the rise. Federal law is now enacting a law that provides for a minimum of 10 years imprisonment for that conversion. Reproduction and life cycle of animals in natural environment. Elephants use their strong sense of smell to communicate with each other. Inside the skull, elephants have 7 to 9 nasal turbines made of special olfactory tissue. When a female is in the estrus, or when a male is in the mustache, an elephant can apparently detect airborne hormones. Once collected, the information is transmitted to the Jacobson body located in the mouth. This organ carries the molecules to the brain for analysis. Hormones are also sniffed directly from urine and feces. Here too we see the issue of women and men. Paired. The pairing of insects, birds, and animals during the breeding season is associated with a common love activity, not for a specific period of time. Among many insects, birds, and mammals, males exhibit a common breeding ground called a lake or stable. The women go to the confluence area, meet. The subject is seen in the picture. In breeding behavior, birds. Most birds form pairs during the breeding season. Birds are long-lasting, often lifelong. Bonds are established between a man and a woman, a bond that is usually sustained by behavior at certain intervals. Cuculiform, invertebrate cuckoo. During breeding, invertebrate cuckoos form stable pairs and protect their own territories, in which they build their nests and raise their own young. Owl, behavior. The breeding season, which begins with a special male song, seems to strengthen the mating bond. He is finally answered kindly by the woman, often from a distance. After 10 to 15 minutes of antiphonal singing, the two come closer to each other. Pelicaniforms. Pelicaniform, courtship behavior. The pairing, once established, is strengthened by joint nest construction and defense and activities such as the pruning of one bird to another. Some displays that work in individual recognition are done in the air or on the ground when one of the pair returns. Pigeons. Columbiform, behavior. Pigeons live for the rest of their lives. However, especially the pairless men have to try hard to advance the pair formation. Tiger sex life. Tigers usually surround each other and start their love by singing. Indicates his readiness for the female partner. During this time he becomes restless, very restless, and his voice becomes spray marking, scratching trees and rubbing on bushes to release his scent. All this is done to attract men. The normal time for both males and females to be paired and spent together is between 3 and 7 days. It is certain that once the tiger becomes pregnant, it will not come to Australasia for about 2 years. This time she spends with her little ones. There are exceptions to every rule. The same is true of tigers. If the tigress does not conceive or her cub dies, she may return to Australasia in 3 to 4 months. In this long discussion, we have seen the bond between man and woman in the animal kingdom. There is evidence of this in physics and chemistry. All the electronic devices in the house run on a combination of positive and negative charges. Compounds are formed from basic substances through the reaction of positive and negative ions. Key points: the word progress means to advance in knowledge or action. Those who are able to do this work properly are called progressives. And progressivism is a change in people's attitudes. Progressive people sacrifice their lives to eradicate the vicious cycle of society. Progressive people do creative work themselves, encouraging others. To be progressive is to make a revolution in consciousness. If any group is to be called progressive in Bangladesh, then agricultural scientists have to be called. As we have seen in childhood, The month of Chaturabashik was called the month of famine, at which time low-income people used to eat once or twice a day. As a result of the efforts and research of these agricultural scientists, food shortage has been eliminated from Bangladesh. At present, 12 to 15-year-old boys and girls in front of the month of scarcity, they will answer what it is. Learning what Mr. Shamim Muntaji wants to teach will lead to the emergence of many unknown diseases in our society. So he cannot be called progressive, it must be said that man is a devil in disguise. From the Holy Quran we learn that the followers of Shamim Muntaji, the people of Lut, were destroyed by Almighty Allah. In the article we see that at present the government of the country is trying to control the issue of Shamim Muntaji's education. In the article we also see that the animal kingdom follows the management of the family of the husband and wife for the propagation of its offspring, with the exception of which the best man of creation violates the provision given by Allah. We know that Allah, the Exalted, has sent 124 prophets and messengers to guide people time to times. All the previously revealed religions have been distorted because Satan, like Shamim Muntasir, would change the rules of Allah immediately after the arrival of any prophet or messenger. Only Islam will pass theology because no distortion of the Holy Quran has taken place yet. Muslims are purified by performing ablution 5 times a day, 4 prayers. On the other hand, Corona has taught the whole world to be holy. The Holy Quran contains more than 1,000 verses, which carry theories of science. Therefore, we do not follow Satan but live in the light of the Holy Quran and Hadith. God bless. Thank you to all the audience for patiently listening to me.